Orlando, welcome to Halloween Daily. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Hey, what's up, Halloween Daily? Thank you so much. Seriously, this is an incredible moment to, sit back and chat about, one of the most phenomenal cult favorite films and novels out there, you know.
Absolutely. And I am loving your work in the novelization reissue, the Halloween Illustrated. Since I got my copy, I've just been devouring it. And I was just flipping through it again earlier today, just prepping for this conversation.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, of course, I'm excited to talk to you about all things Michael Myers and Halloween. But before we even get to Haddonfield, let's back up a little bit and if you don't mind, we'll get a little bit of your origin story. And we always, whenever possible, try to start and focus in on the Halloween holiday itself, because every day is Halloween
hmm
for us.
hmm
And so, can you tell us a little bit about where you grew up and just Halloween in your life?
Oh, Halloween has always held a very special, honorable amount of energy to be devoted and invested upon
Yeah,
as a kid growing up in the Bronx. Everything from bugging my mom, who worked in a seamstress underground sweatshop, for the fashion industry, and telling her, hey, 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 showing her like a drawing or a picture, of like, hey, can you do this? I want this costume. Can you do this? And I think I actually ended up winning in the fourth grade out of the whole school best costume for imitating the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
nice.
I mean, it hurt. I mean,
I bet.
after that day, I was hunched over and I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. At the age of like 9, I already made that commitment. But no, I grew up in the Bronx, and I don't come from a, you know, family of artists or designers or anything like that. I'm kind of the oddball, and the whole family took a whimsical bet on my education, being the youngest of three, and I was always wrapped up into just the passion of film and advertising. First few movies I could date back to just being, you know, before, first grade type stuff,
Yeah.
whether it's my father taking me out every opening season to fishing season to go see Jaws, right? I don't know
Nice.
why, because I'm like, hey, we're going fishing. I don't want to go fishing for this, but everything from that to my mom having a few days off and calling me out from grammar school to accompany her to watch matinee showings at the local theater, and it was always either suspenseful dramas, horrors, or action films. So I remember watching like Dress to Kill with
Hmm.
her in the movie theater. Meanwhile, she's like totally fanning the weed smoke from over my head because of the folks in the back seats. My brother, I tribute him with all my passion for kung fu flicks and action and Star Wars. I mean,
Yeah.
he dropped me off. He was punished and he couldn't go out anywhere, and he had a hot date with his girlfriend. And he convinced my mom that, oh, you know what, I'm going to take Orlando to go see this new movie. And then she was like, great, but you're going to stick with him. No, he didn't stick with me. He left me there for at least four showings. I was there for at least like 6 to 8 hours, and he had left me with like all this popcorn and soda. And he was like, don't go anywhere. Stay here. Bye. I'll see you in a little while. I've always had a passion for films. Um, my first real job coming out of college was working retail with Warner Brothers Studio Store in Manhattan, and
Wow.
it was kind of an alternate path because the industry had just gone computer, and I was there holding a portfolio of just traditional art, and all the agencies wanted computer, Photoshop, blah blah blah, this that the other thing, and I didn't, so I needed to save up, and I designed this like parallel strategy of like, okay, well, if I have Warner Brothers right here in Manhattan with me, how about I go into the retail shop and I'll find some way that I could parallel jump into their studios, their movie studios, and it took a while, but it took more than 10 years. I mean, after that, my first real industry job was working with Lloyd Kaufman over at Trauma Studios when they were
Yeah.
Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
Right after James Gunn took off to go to LA and do his
Yep.
thing. I mean, he would routinely come back, say hi to the troops, take some of us out for beers and some giggles. I mean, guy's fantastic. I
That's
got to meet
awesome.
up with him later on when I was collaborating with Marvel and the Poster Posse for Guardians 1, and went to the press viewing and handed him off some original artwork that was originally commissioned by Marvel Studios. So it was a good, full circle come around. It
Yeah.
was like, oh shit, the Mexican. Great stuff. But now, I've got a really long-winded history of just, everything from holding up walls as a security guard at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and then finding out that I could submit artwork for an actual juried show, and my art's hung on the walls there for 2 years straight, to, designing and creating a new illustration design bullpen for Pepsi, to designing the troops for a lot of commercial agencies and brands, from Diageo to Timex, and then just really going independent, thanks to folks like the Poster Posse out there that really tend to be a big fan and champion of artists that are wanting to play within this entertainment Hollywood field, and doing their best to not represent them, but basically try to get them a harder knock on that door of opportunity. So, fast forward to today, I met many, many friends throughout, this journey of creative exploratory, with a passion for movies, particularly horror, that I came across a good friend called, his name's Stephen Hovick. He's one of the owners of Printed in Blood. And we've been chatting for years, seriously, about just, spitballing opportunities. Like, hey, what would I do if we got this, and would you be interested in that? And, hey, how corny would this be? Can we do a pop-up book for something? Can we do a 3D book for something? And maybe I'm shedding too much info here on maybe future opportunities. Maybe some foreshadowing, but we really get along. We've got the same mindset, and he knows I love just anything that deals with horror. So this is my wife. When I first met her, she was just like, we would hang out late and just watch until horror movies until the sun came up, break light. But with this particular project, when I got the phone call and they're like, hey, would you be interested in doing the renovelization, an illustrated book? I practically pissed my pants. I was just like, what? I was like, are you kidding me? And he was like, no, honestly. And I was like, wow. I mean, we've been chatting here and there about touch and go, about different possibilities. Are you really just fucking with me, or we gonna do this? And he was like,
Yeah.
well, we got a window that we want to hit, and we know that you move fast. And I was like, okay, how fast do we need to do it? Because at this point, I knew that there was a novel out there from '78. But like most folks, I jumped on the whole collector thing rather late in my life, and I didn't know that there was so much to the novel.
Yeah.
And when I got my hands on it, I went through it and I was like, holy wow. I thought I knew this property. I thought I knew Michael Myers.
Yeah.
And then you read the novel, and I was just taken back by it. And I remember, talking to Steve, and I'm talking to Phil. He's also part owner of Printed in Blood, and having conversations with Compass Group.
Yeah.
And wanting to know, okay, well, what are the guardrails?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a higher than holy property for some of us. And
I was going to ask about that, if there were parameters that they gave you.
Oh,
yeah.
man, Matt, having, a background with being respectful to certain brands, or being focused on what the goal is to try to not upset the community or the audience. It's like, here I was really happy, and I was enormously just, honored with the invitation and the opportunity. But at the same time, I have to tell you, I was kind of shit in a pickle, because I was like, okay, what do you guys want? And they're like, well, we want you to do you. All right, we want you to do Mexifunk. We want you to do what you're known for, but with our property, with our baby.
Hmm.
And I said, whoa, hold on. I said, are you asking me to reinvent everything?
Hmm.
Because I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
Maybe some other artists would have just jumped at the opportunity at the jugular and said, "Oh my God, I get to re-envision, Michael Myers in my own way."
Hmm.
I was the opposite. I was like, "Hell no, man." I mean, that's you know, I wouldn't want. I could, I would, but deep down, out of respect,
Yeah.
I didn't want to.
Hmm.
If anything, I said, "Okay, would you mind if I basically kept very true to the visual DNA of what's
Hmm.
been established with Carpenter and the film series and the first movie?"
Yeah.
All right. And they were like, "Yeah, we have all the rights to all the likenesses. Like there's not going to be any type of legal battle and back and forth that, so and so actress doesn't like
Hmm.
how she looks here on this page. Like you make the call. And you make the call for everything that hasn't been visually integrated from a director's point of view, from a cinematic point of view." And
Yeah.
that was really, really exciting, like really, really exciting because, uh, it allowed me a lot of wriggle room to
Yeah.
explore all this early upfront family history storytelling,
Yeah.
and it was enchanting, to tell you the truth. It was just like, wow, okay, let's get really into it, look at it from like a very horrific but romantic eye and respectful.
Yes.
And it came about, but it was tough. When I asked Steven, I was like, "Hey, how many illustrations are we talking about?" He was like, "Well, I already got an outline of the book, and like how I'm thinking where we could position things." And I'm like, "Cool." I'm thinking in my head like maybe 25 at the most, because we want to tell the story more. No, he already had like planned out like over 200, and I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "You want 200?" He's like, "Yeah, can we get 200 like in like 2 months or so?" Whoa. I was like, "Okay, time out. I've got other projects. I can't say no to. I got to juggle them." So it was wild. I think, you know, um, instead of what I really, really wanted to do was try to do this all outside of this digital vector world, right? That I'm
Yeah.
known for. And I really wanted to go back to like just really traditional kind of
Yeah.
watercolors and play with my airbrush like I used to many,
Hmm.
many millennia ago. And but looking back at it, I'm glad I didn't make that move for the actual illustrated, storytelling,
Hmm.
because when you play in that kind of traditional art, it's a pain in the ass to have to go back and correct anything. If anybody's like, "Hey, can we just position
Oh
this person
yeah.
off this way and change the look on this person?" And it's like, "Are you kidding me? This is all original art. Like, there's no Command Z undo features here. I mean, this is it. You
Yeah.
want me to start? You want me to make those changes? I got to start all over again."
Hmm.
But I'm glad that on the tail end of everything, one of the options that we have for the collectors out there on Printed in Blood is, this big premium package where, you get the posters, you get the autographs, but you're also getting an original, you know, ink drawing,
Oh yeah.
handed in. And each one is different. It's not like I just created these things and then,
Hmm.
hey, let's just scan off about 300 of them and just tip them in. No, I mean, each one is significantly different. And I'm very happy that we were able to negotiate and throw that in there, not just for the collectors and for
Yeah.
the property, but for me to have like a part where I'm like, okay, at least I'm including something that folks could really, sink their teeth in, as far as like an original piece, not just a copy of something manipulated.
Sure. Yeah. And I love hearing that because I wanted to ask you about that, about the parameters and about the balance of, because yeah, some of your illustrations are, I would say, more literal, like what we've recognized from the
Yeah,
films and we know from the story. And then other ones, are, I'd say, more abstract, more like, stuff. And again, there's a lot of stuff in the novel, like you
yeah.
said, that is not in the film, and it's just
Hmm.
fascinating in its own right. And you're able to illustrate some of that, and then some of it's just more kind of cerebral illustrations of what's going on. So I wanted to ask a little bit about that balance, because I see both in there, and I like both, and I like
Hey, thanks.
seeing stuff that we don't see in the film because we all know it by heart and we love it and it's perfect. And but here we get this it's like more to chew on. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, and it was really tough when we were out on the floor in Pasadena
Yeah.
at the H45 convention,
Yeah.
right? Celebration. Like a lot of folks were like, so what's the difference between that coffee existing art book, because Printed in Blood had put out this big, beautiful multi-artist collection Halloween celebrated book. So people were kind of
Oh yes,
perplexed.
the
They're like,
art
well,
book. Yes.
what's the difference with the art book between this? And
Yes.
we had to tell them, well, about the novelization, and then their eyes blow up and they go, what are you talking
Yeah.
about? A 1978 novel. I don't remember that. And I'm like, well, so and so has it over there for $1,000 at that booth. You know what I mean? And they're like,
Right.
wait, really? So what is this? And I'm like, well, having being a fan of like the golden age of illustration and children's book,
Yeah.
and N.C. Wyeth, being one of my favorite, like, all-time American illustrators. I saw this as that platform where I was like, oh man, I'm so happy that Printed in Blood sees it the same way that I see it, and Compass sees it the same way, when we're going to create, not just pull straight from the movie, but we're going to basically,
Yeah.
add in so much more to this novel and make it into a visual storybook. Not just a script book, or a storyboard book where it's like, oh, okay, well, here are the sequences in order. When they told me, hey, we do want you, we would appreciate if you would bring some cadence and respect from the cinematic world.
Sure.
And for me, I was like, that's sure. Can I play with it though?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, just don't be afraid to pull from it directly if you want.
Right.
And I said, yeah, no, I'll pull here and I'll make a big, beautiful collage, of Jamie and the shape, and, and here he is on that, iconic scene where he's hiding, standing right on the sidewalk when they first glance at each other, and he's right by the hedges. And, I really wanted to capture that. So I was really, really thankful that, there weren't like these big, strict guardrails of like, you must, you must, you must, you must, you must. And I'm also glad that they were like, do as you wish.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun playing around with like throwing in Easter eggs on the upfront of the novel, where we talked about kind of the old celebrations of Samhain and like the Celtic days. And if you really look at the positioning of some of the composition and the iconography, there's some Celtic runes in there that symbolize certain things and their positioning, whether it's life and death, whether it's, being a puppet, and you got to look really, really, really into some of the illustrations, like when you have a witch riding alongside of like death and a big goat kind of nemesis entity, and they're flying over the city. I mean, over this, little sleepy town. I had a lot of fun just playing around with. I love doing research and I love culture. So anytime I'm able to dip my toes into that, I really bring it to the front and just embrace it all and just put it out there. And there are so many things that didn't make it. Actually, there
I was going to ask you about that too,
man. There are a lot of, there's a lot on the cutting room floor that, we're in discussion right now on what's the best way to share that. So, there's some talks going on. Will those things ever see the light of day? Because there's so much, especially when you get into definites within the novel.
Yeah.
Right. And that imaginary kind of realm that draws up when a reader's reading it, because you're reading it verbatim and your head's like, wait a second, wow, okay, this is pretty graphic.
Yeah.
Or this might be a little bit too over titillization that wasn't in the movie.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that there's parts where I had to be, called up and said, hey, listen, can we tone it down in this area? And just like the original heart and intent for the cinematic world, where they're like, hey, we don't want to show too much blood. We really don't want to show any blood. you know, the first few concepts that I had driven up were the opposite. I had everything like in kind of like this dreamlike blood spatter smear, and that's how I really wanted to tell the full length of the storytelling up until we get to modern day 19, you know, Haddonfield 1978, and then go from there, boom, into full color. And everybody, you know, everyone was like really digging the initial direction, and they're like, but no, I mean, don't you feel that we should stick closer to how we should show any blood? And I was like, yeah, okay, no, you're absolutely right. You know, it's just I really wanted to throw that on the table to make sure that all of us are in unison with an agreement that, okay, cool, makes it kind of interesting storytelling, but maybe it's not the right way for us to pay true homage to the DNA of what's been established.
And like you said, I mean, I do like the mix of using iconography from the film that we know so well, and your interpretations of that, and then those openings. And there are so many of them in the novel. And you mentioned just the prologue alone, where it goes back to the ancient festivals of Samhain and those origins, and it tells this crazy backstory that yeah, maybe it's not film canon to Michael, but it's still damn interesting. And especially 45 years later as a fan, because I never, you know, like many fans, you know, it's kind of this mythic thing, the novelization, and some people own it and other people have read it. I never read it until now. Now I'm still not done. I'm reading it, and it's fascinating and just a cool, you know, aside to the movie, just an alternate, like, this is some optional backstory. And I always say anyway that this is the franchise. They've already adopted the fact that they're a choose your own adventure franchise as it is anyway with all the sequels. It's take and pick whatever you love and don't love, and so this is just another adventure you can choose to take sometimes, and this, you know, it can be valid this year, and then maybe next year you take another adventure. But I love all of that, and especially the more out there interpretations, I guess, for lack of a better term, because it is just so different. But, you know, I mean, we love Michael Myers, but we love just all things Halloween, and there's so much of that in there too. And like you're talking about with the runes and just the buried symbolism and stuff. I mean, I really appreciate the fact that you layered it with so much of that.
Oh man, I'm glad that you really are embracing it, because like I said, there's so much that was kind of like, okay, let's go with this, or let's tighten up that. And, you know, I'm not angry about that. I mean, this is all part of the process. I'm you know, I'm a pig in shit, just happy, just wanting to play, man, honestly. And, you know, I love it when I'm able to collaborate on these teams where it's not about egos, and it's not about, well, it's strict storytelling because it's already established. No, it's everybody's open-minded, and they really want to breathe something exciting to this audience that really kind of threw a blind eye because we fell in love with the silver screen, and we forgot that there was a paperback that sold out, and we never got to question it. You know what I mean? We never got to. I mean, it sounds so wild that so many of us only knew that it existed.
Right.
Yet we're crazy. We've got all the regalia, the whole Michael Myers, and you know, even down to Loomis's raincoat type of thing. You know what I mean?
And for decades it's out of print. Like you said, it was just unattainable unless you had one of those rare copies. But for decades it's out of print until now.
Yeah, and you know, here's this opportunity to bring some life into this. Not into the brand, but I think of it more into just the audience, you know, to have the audience kind of tap down the shoulder and go, hey, check this out, you know, read about it, fall in love with it. So yeah, I mean, you know, some of the scenes that are inspired and taken from the silver screen. I tried to make sure that they weren't taken exactly verbatim and, okay, let's just plaster it here and, hey, Orlando, do your thing, you know?
Yeah, be like
I
a
wanted to
different
make sure.
POV or something.
Well, yeah, a little
different
POV,
angle.
you know, a little twist on the angle. You know, because a lot of it was wanting to make sure that we were walking hand in hand with the novelization.
Yeah.
But still, like, I'm going to say this over and over again, so I'm sorry, but it's still keeping true and respectful to the DNA that we all fall in love with. And there's portions where, I was instructed, hey, can we focus more on making it look more like this from the movie? And then there are other times that they're just like, you know what? They catch me off guard and they're like, man, just go crazy on this one. Just go crazy from here to here. And I'll go, okay, great, let's do it. And then there were times where I caught them off guard and they'll be like, holy shit, man, I love this sequence. And they'll flip the pages and they go, whoa, okay, this is another sequence we weren't expecting. Like, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody there, unless you think that, it's vital for me to tease anybody with just, fuck it, we'll just tease. I mean, there's quite a few, there's a few sequences that I personally fall in love with because I was like a big fan. And I'm always shocked that amazed when people tell me, when I sit with like a group of friends and we'll watch Halloween.
Yeah.
And that part where Loomis is in the center of town, he just finished talking to the sheriff about about the break-in. And he's there standing on the four corners, but yet over his shoulder is the station wagon with Michael. And Michael just pulls a left-hand turn and goes straight around right behind Loomis. And he's right around here. He turns around and just looks straight at Loomis. And then he drives off while Loomis turns his head. Like, I really wanted to make that almost like a centerfold of kind of the first to second act within the book. And there's another sequence that jumps out at you later on towards the third act. But those are parts of the canvas that I really, really wanted to have fun with. Being a fan,
And you've said that you were a fan long before this. Can you talk to us about that? Like your relationship to Michael Myers in this franchise and that original film prior to this gig. You've said a couple times already that you were a fan. So how big of a fan, I guess? When
how big
did you
of a
first
fan?
get into Michael Myers?
Oh man, I was, I had a friend, down the block who was a bit more fortunate, and he was one of these, kids that basically was an only child. You know what I mean? He had a mom and dad that just not spoiled him, but they supported him. We would just sit back and go through his collection of Fangoria as a kid. And every time there's a new one at a newsstand, okay, blah, 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 blah. And his parents didn't care how gory it was, And I'd be like, oh man, he got one about for Halloween, Michael Myers. I forgot the edition number. And I was like, oh man, I got to borrow this. I got to go back home. I got to show my older brother this, and I just want to read it, And he was like, oh yeah, go ahead. I took it home, and my mother almost, being a devoted Catholic, Mexican Catholic, she was like, what the hell is this? She was like, no, and I was like, yes, it's cool stuff. Look, this is the movie we went to go see. You know what I mean? So I was just bringing it all back to her, but being a hardcore fan. I mean, I've never dressed up as Michael Myers. It's just I'm just too short. I don't fit that shape facade. Yeah. But I've had so many. I've pushed so many of my friends at that height and build to be like, oh man, come on, we got to get the jumper. We got to get the whole whole mask thing. Let's go. Put some fright, some scare into some trick-or-treaters this year. So you can imagine, a bunch of hooligans running around, in New York City in the Bronx, scaring people off. Meanwhile, I could have imagined that, we were tempting death on our own levels. You know what I mean? But, Michael has always been something that I've always gone back to, whether doodling in high school, off to the side, cracking jokes, or putting him up against other popular iconic horror characters, which we've seen that also evolve within, the whole horror film culture as well. And, sometimes some have played well, and sometimes we wish that there might have been other writers or directors to take that torch up. But I've always been a fan. And I embrace this opportunity, seriously.
And it is just a cool release, like you said, because it is so layered. I mean, if they were just re-releasing that novel, that would be a big deal for
Yeah,
fans. That would be
yeah.
cool alone without the, if they were just doing an illustrated version of the film, that would
Mhm.
be cool by itself. But here we're getting this combination of all of it. And like you said, 200 or over 200
Oh no,
images.
that was what was like kind of like expected. They're like, hey, we might need like a roughly 200. And I was like, whoa, no, we got to bring that number down. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I mean, I think all in all, from front to back, I think there's definitely over 100
Yeah.
illustrations in there,
Yeah.
right? But it was really wild because I remember, Steve Hovick, Printed in Blood. He knows a lot of artists out there. Oh my God, I'm always like in awe when I'm hanging out with them or doing, San Diego Comic Con, or we're doing something,
Hmm.
over in Pasadena. I'm just like, oh my God, you know that person, and you know that person, and I'm like, wow, okay, cool, and he's not like, pompous and, oh yeah, well, I know all these people. I mean, he's just really common everyday dude. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I freaking love hanging out with him, man. Because he's just authentic. He's not about the bullshit.
Hmm.
And he knows what the audience would love to see, right? And the collectors. So I remember when we were talking about, hey, before I could just say, yes, 100%, let's do it. I was like, hey, time out. This isn't a graphic novel, right? Because I'm not a graphic novelist.
Hmm.
I know how to draw, and I do a lot of, you know, collaborations with Hollywood and the studios for films and posters and home entertainment. But by all means, I'm not a comic book artist. I don't do the sequential art type of thing. You
Hmm.
know, and he was like, "No, that's not what we're asking for.
Yeah.
We want your spin. So how do you view it?" And I was like,
Hmm.
after reading everything, I remember calling him up. I was like, "Dude, I see this as a big adult storybook.
Yeah.
That's all it is, man. For me,
Hmm.
it's like, I mean, there's a lot of synergy and energy, and just it captivates you. But I was like, man, I want this to be just like us taking this book and jumping into a portal when we were younger
Yeah.
and going, whoa, wow,
Yeah.
and really appreciating the two different dynamics of the entity that represents, Halloween.
That is what it is, and it is two different dynamics, even on the level that the novel was written, like we said, in 78, and here you are in our present day bringing your sensibility to it after 4.5 decades of Michael Myers being in your conscious as a fan and in the public's conscious, just in pop culture. And I think that's an interesting thing about the book too, is that we have this kind of time capsule of like
Yeah.
this little scene novelization that probably didn't make a lot of noise upon its original release, and it's just become kind
Mhm.
of this sought after thing for collectors and fans over the years. So now we have that, and then this modern look at these ancient, in some cases ancient, but classic images. I would say.
Hey, no, I appreciate that. Seriously,
Yeah.
I really do. It's, um, you know, I have, I can play with different properties and different themes, different characters,
Yeah.
And I actually had to ask several times. I was like, "Are you sure you guys want me to do this?" I mean, like, I get really like almost like tripped out with like the lighting and the colors, and I don't mind throwing in the kitchen
Hmm.
sink in there if it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm really into just making people turn the page and almost have to put on shades and go, holy shit, that's fucking bright, or that's a lot of energy going on in there.
Yeah.
And everybody were just like, we want your spin on it. And I was like, okay, great. And I held back a little bit. And to be honest, a little behind the scenes, when we got to like the final stages of reviewing
Hmm.
everything, um, I remember Compass going, hey, you know what? We love this sequence here. We love this over here. We love that over here. But there's parts of the imagery, the visualization,
Hmm.
that we're not feeling that it's total Mexifunk.
Yeah.
And I just stood there, and I remember, talking to Steve and going, wait a second, like what the hell? Like that's like ingredients of the film. Like, I'm paying respect to it. And he's like, well, maybe they just want you to go fucking balls out and, fucking just blow it out of the fucking water. And I was like, oh shit. Okay, this late in the game. I wish they would have said that from the beginning. And you know what? They actually did. It's just I was a little bit too reverent upon how to put the pieces together, in my own way. So in that way, it was still an honor to hear that. I mean, that was some criticism. I mean, there were some points within the criticism, but that the folks reviewing it were like, hey, this looks too photographic. What happened to the illustrated look that's going here and here? Yeah. And I had to show them, like, my illustrator wireframes, the X-rays, right? If you know the way that I play in vector, there's always like these sequence shots of like all these black lines or all these crazy colorful dots. That's the ingredients, the structure of how I build these illustrations. Totally different than like Photoshop or in the traditional world sense. So I had to show them, like, hey, nothing here is photographic. Nothing here is like been implemented and like, secretly thrown in. Like, everything's hand drawn. Yeah. So I mean, even if that was like a deep cut of criticism, for me, I still took it as, a benefit of going, okay, well, it's a compliment. I'm glad that I was able to, make it so refined to have you consider that this was like not illustrated. But through and through, man, there's so much that didn't make it into the book that I'm just like, oh man, let's just throw it all in the back as an appendix, Yeah. And they were just like, no, let's contain it as here, and then we'll see how we could probably do something, hopefully, But I'm so glad that everybody's surprised by it. Yeah. I think that's like a really good way to clarify and describe that. A lot of folks are like, wow, I don't know what I'm going into. I'll buy it though. I'm a big fan collector. I know a little bit about the novelization, but holy shit, I don't know what's coming at me. Yeah. And then I'll get these DMs or these emails, and people are just like, holy shit, you're the guy responsible for this, huh? And I'm like, well, I'm part of the team, responsible for it. And they're just digging it. Just like, oh man, I wasn't expecting this, and I'm glad that I spent the money and the waiting time for the shipping. And then they're like, hey, you know what? I'm buying another one because I just need one sealed. I don't even want to open it. And I'm like, yeah, in true collector sense, I'm like, wow, okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you that you guys are enjoying it so much to that level.
Yeah, well, and I definitely do think that there are a lot of fans, that are going into it, like you said, kind of for the novel and with that in mind, and then just getting pleasantly blown away and stunned by the illustrations, which it's not just an added part of it. It really is, at least half the book is the illustrations. And you could almost, like I said, they could almost be separate entities, but the fact that they are in this one release is pretty amazing. And yeah, props to Printed in Blood for putting it all together and just making this happen. I mean, it's really cool.
I had a great time collaborating with my buddy Steve, and then with Compass as well, because he was like, hey, listen, I've already taken the time to just put the bones out there and structurally just have you play off of it. And, there were times that I was like, hey, you know what? Let's move this page and turn this into a full, spread. Yeah. Can we do that? Can we push this here and push that there, or take this back here? And there are parts where, even towards the latter half towards the end, when a lot of it was visually there already. And we were challenged. We were challenged by, the Compass group in a good way. Yeah. That they were like, and I love that kind of process. I hate carte blanches where, you have a team that's just like, hey, do whatever you want to do. Right. I working from the advertising, back in the advertising world as a creative director, that's always something that's going to end up being very costly, because you're giving somebody a brief, you're walking them through the brief, and then you're telling them, hey, listen, here's the guardrails, but do whatever you want to do. And then sometimes they're just like, okay, great. And they come back and they've wasted 2 weeks to a month exploring. And then nothing that they deliver is is able to be utilized. And you're like, okay, right now I got to jump back in here and basically really direct everything. So I like more of a shared, endeavor. Of it's like, okay, cool. Everybody has a voice. Everybody, there's no egos here. Everybody's part of the mechanics to make this happen, right? And there's no hard feelings of, hey, you know what? I really don't like that piece. Okay, well then, why doesn't it work for you? How can I make it better? So when we were practically almost done with the book, we were going through it all, and the Compass Group came back and they're like, hey man, we know that this is a novel and we've got to read it. And the really, spikes within the pulse rate is when we turn and, oh shit, there's a visual here. Oh fuck. We want that pulse racing and spiking just accordingly, but we want to maintain a little blip every now and then on those copy heavy pages. How do we do that? And I was like, how do we do that? And they're like, yeah, like you have a few spreads where it's just back-to-back copy, white paper, text.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, what a freaking challenge. I'm like, what the hell? And Steve Hovick came up with it. He was like, hey, how about if we put in some really one color, like almost duotone-esque, simple line drawings of just whatever is the meat of that context that's on that page.
Right.
And I was like, hell yeah. I was like, cool.
Yeah. So
when we offered it up to the team again, to Compass, they were like, we love it. We love this little add-in, few little visual, tidbits. But I really, really was in awe upon their feedback of how they kind of described it, that like, it's almost like an EKG monitor, and it's like, man, everything's exciting. Wow, color illustration. Then, oh shit, they're back to copy. Hold on. We got to wait till the next illustration, So I was like, okay, great. That's a great challenge. And I think it's a great, fantastic build to keep the entertainment going, the reader's interest in wanting to be entertained visually, and to have them self-direct and self-project whatever tonality it might be in their narrative voice while they read this. I mean, I do it all the time. And, I'm not a fast reader just because of that. I open up a book or anything and I conjure up a whole different voice that fits the tonality of what I'm reading. Maybe I'm too much of a psycho, but there it goes.
No, that's like me. I mean, and I'm a slow reader too, a fast writer, slow reader. But yeah, I'm picturing it all up and bringing it up. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I mean, with the heartbeats and the heart races, and I do love those little illustrations that you're talking about behind some of the text pages and stuff, that just little symbols or little moments to tie in with what you're reading. And so it never is not illustrated, I guess. It's always, you're always kind of in that illustrated world, even though you've got this, Curtis Richards' voice, coming through constantly as well.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, Curtis Richards, when I was just laughing with Steve about like, oh man, so you got two New Yorkers in one book, man. And he's like, awesome. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, that what a kicker that is. We should do something for New York in that case.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
You
should.
What's your favorite part of the whole novel? Well, I mean, you're still going through it, but I mean, so far, like, do you have a favorite?
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, there's so much in there, but I mean, like I said, even just the beginning part, the prologue with the going back to the Festival of Samhain and the whole story about the murderer who's then cursed, and kind of setting up, this ancient evil that's walking, and then all the stuff leading up to, even, before we even get to the film, the backstory, some of the Judith stuff, and some of the Grandma Myers, I love that. And I just love some of that stuff, and a lot of it, just being such a fan and a geek for some of the sequels. I see some of like, it's almost like a little bit of Halloween 3 or a little bit of Curse of Michael Myers that they kind of pulled from here and there. It almost feels like, it could almost even work into there.
Man, I had to keep that passion side of the fanboy in check, because we, since since they're licensed equities by different groups,
Yeah,
right?
it's all very,
It was like, I mean, even down to the mask, you know, I was told specifically, this is the original mask,
right.
right? These are, you know, the contours of it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's very landmarked in a way, and don't deviate from that. I mean, that was the only like line in the sand that they threw down, like, don't cross that line.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, through it, they know that I wanted to get expressionistic in certain pages, right? As an artist. And then when it came to Mike's mask, they were like, okay, well, you got to tighten this one up. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I thought I hit it really well. I'm like, no, it's looking too much like so and so from this one, or from this property, you know. And you know, it's things that going in, you might not be aware of it. Yeah. And then when you're in it, you're like, holy crap, there is a lot of legal behind, you know, how this property has been focused upon and then exchanged and then taken here and then crossed over there. And, you know, I was told, listen, just put the blinders on and make sure you just focus here. Yeah. You know, because even towards the end of the book, I wanted to leave it off with this kind of visual cliffhanger that alluded to what comes next within the cinematography, you know, cinema world. Yeah. And we're at the very end, we're all like, no, we got to end it like this over here. And the way that, and I'm glad that we did that, because the final illustration that's in the book, I you know, I don't pat myself off and on the back, maybe I should, but the final illustration in the book is one that's, I'm like, oh my God, it's so exciting. I would love to get that as a multi-page, like, billboard, and just plastered as a mural on my mural wall, you know, my studio wall. But it was a good shift in direction, because it doesn't really allude to anything that comes next. It's just boom, here it is. Right. Here's how this novel ends for this moment, you know.
I love it. And again, I just love hearing the passion that you've put into it, and just all the, you know, the thought process, and everybody, it sounds like. I mean, I think the decision making from your collaborators has been very spot on what you're describing here, and areas where it's understandable that, yeah, they want it to be the 78 mask, of course, and because this is the 78 story, and obviously for legal reasons too, but also I think for, you know, because it's the 78 story. I mean, I think it makes sense on that too, on that level as well. And it sounds like it was a fun and rewarding project, but also, you know, challenging. Would you say this is the most challenging project you've worked on?
Yeah. Hands down, honestly, you know, within my 30 years of playing in the commercial biz, and, you know, maybe half of that being focused on just being a passionate, you know, fan of Hollywood and trying to engage with doing anything for them, whether it's, you know, home entertainment, steel books, or posters for web or whatever. Never did I ever thought that I would be asked to take a property that I grew up with and be like the visual presence for it, you know, contributor for it. And it was, you know, it wasn't easy. I mean, it was a lot of fun. And, you know, maybe I'm a glutton for punishment in ways, you know, and carry a smile, but never did I really lose sleep over it. You know, I had to juggle a lot of things in between. And then, you know, I've had people in the industry, you know, close friends of mine at other studios are like, what's occupying your time right now, man? And I'm like, oh, I can't even tell you, man. I could hint and tell you that I'm on like illustration number 86 right now for this project. And they'll be like, whoa, what? You know, and they're like, wait a second, what are you talking about? And, you know, I wouldn't, you know, because of the NDAs and just because I'm so loyal to just making sure that I've never ever, like, you know, rattle off and, hey, you know what, I'm working on so-and-so. Yeah. You know, it's just the way that I've been, you know, professionally, you know, but I'm great at like putting out a few freaking teasers to make people go crazy and go, wait, what the hell? Wait a second, what? You know, and maybe have them deviate away from whatever my main focus and concern might be working on this project, right? So I had a lot of fun when, you know, creative directors and marketing directors at different studios were like, it was number 86 in a series.
Yeah.
What the hell? So it was exciting. It's very, very exciting. And I wanted to turn it into a flip book, believe it or not. I remember telling Steve, I was like, let's just turn it into a flip book. And it's like, you really want to do that? I was like, well, I do have a background in hand-drawn animation, you know? And he's like, no, that's going to kill you, man. And throughout the course of this project, I went to the hospital twice just because of health.
Oh man.
My own health issues, but not health issues regarding the stress or anticipation of the project, just my own, poor management. And I remember Steve and Phil like totally concerned, like, holy shit, dude, if this thing's killing you. And I was like, no, it's not. I was like, trust me, it's not, because I remember I ended up having to be in the hospital for like 3 days, like for a lot of these tests to be concerned, taken, right? And I remember telling my wife, I was like, bring me my mobile studio, my Z-Book. And she's like, you're kidding me. And I was like, I'm bored in here. And she's like, but you're supposed to be resting. And I'm like, well, I'll be resting drawing.
Yeah.
And she's like, but that's work. And I'm like, no, remember, I don't call it work. I call it playtime. So if I'm able to be here sitting in a hospital bed, all hooked up, jerry-rigged here and there, but I'm having fun. And I think that's one of the things that, growing up in the Bronx, I think that's one thing that I've always, everybody talks about escapism. Oh, well, he used his music to escape, the Bronx. Or I think for me, everything was almost like, a Hollywood lot scene in New York City.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to draw a lot of that. And I never thought about it as escapism. I just felt that for me to be whole would be, and happy would be being engaged and just drawing. So with the stress of being in the hospital, I think my safe place, right? My happy place.
Yeah.
Was, okay, you know what? I'm in love with this opportunity. I need to be fully engaged in it. And my wife, she's a fantastic supporter. I mean, she's my best friend. She's everything. And she's like, okay, great. If I got to sneak it in, I'll sneak it in. But, there's a chance I might not be able to get it through. And I was like, if I get it, awesome. And she brought it in. And I was like drawing for the next 2 days in the hospital.
Nice.
Not skipping a beat.
Nice. I love it.
Not totally recommended if you're in there for some ultra serious thing, but if it's something that, if there's anything that you really enjoy doing from a creative side, and you enjoy that magic that happens that during that process, then go full tilt on it, man. Seriously.
I love hearing that. And I think that's words to live by right there. Now you were at H45 and we were there. We didn't get a chance to say hi, unfortunately. I wish it was a week long, man. Those 2 days fly by so fast, and it was so insane. I saw you from a distance at one point, but what was your feeling, and what was that experience like for you? You were there with Printed in Blood, and of course the book wasn't officially out yet, but it had been announced and people were getting hyped. What was that like for you?
Oh man, it was first time traveling to Pasadena.
Yeah.
So like a fool, I was like, why can't I take a direct flight straight to Pasadena Airport, man? Like, what's going on? And lo and behold, well, Pasadena doesn't have an airport. You got to go to one of the neighboring airports and drive in, So that was, my wife and I were just like, what the hell? Because I'm coming in from Colombia, South America.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. That's where I've been for the past 7-8 years. And I've been traveling back and forth for events and cons and, job opportunities. And when I got to H45, I got there really early. I mean, so early that, the guys were up on the zebra lifts, putting up the bunting for for the event that week. And I was like, hey man, put that up real quick. I want to take a selfie. Hurry it up. Let's go. And they were just like, what the hell? God, you're here early. It doesn't even start for a few days. I'm like, I don't care. I'm here. And it was great. It was great. Awesome. It was my first time hitting the floor with Steve and Phil at Printed in Blood, and then meeting the Compass group as well, and meeting so many other guys that, you know, I've been big fans of and supporters and kind of like,
Oh yeah.
you know, support brothers like Jason Edmondson
Hmm.
and Matt Ryan. And I was just like, oh man, you know, you guys are here. I was like, all right, let's go have tequila shots on me. No, I didn't say that. I was just like, let's go have some dinner. But you know, everybody ends up finding tequila somehow.
Right.
Anyway, but no, it was really great because you know, I got a chance to really meet some of the people within the whole Halloween kind of ensemble and
Yeah.
appreciation. You know, that whole community is a tight one, you know.
Right.
And I saw so many opportunities of folks that I wanted to get to talk to and shake a hand and give them something free or, you know, hey, you know, sign
Yeah.
my book or whatever, you know.
Hmm.
And it wasn't like printed in blood or like cracking the whip and going, hey, we need you over here, get over here.
Yeah.
You know, they were really lax about it. They were like, hey, if you need to break loose, just let us know and
Hmm.
we'll cover. Um, but it was magical for me. You know, I
Yeah.
got to see some folks that in galleries that were there that you know, Hero Complex was there as well. And you know,
Hmm.
I was big tight friends with Adam back in the old days, and he was a big supporter of my art. And we were talking. I saw some of the artwork that he had put up on the wall in his booth, and I was just like, oh my God, you got so and so here, and I know that guy, and I know that girl, and they're awesome. And you know, it's great when you're able to be on, you know, boots on the ground to that extent.
Yeah.
And instead of walking around like, you know, the spotlight's on you and you got the fur coat on and, you know, you got like little minions carrying the tail ends of your fur coat behind you, you know, like
Right.
I've never been one for that. You know, I've always been a bit more transparent and reaching out and, you know, meeting people like, you know, Adam's art box and going, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? And guys was like, holy shit, what are you doing here? I'm like,
Mhm.
well, you know, I did this crazy thing with that printed in blood over
Yeah.
there, you know. You know, I never try to downplay it to the point where it's disrespectful. I mean, I'm just not, you know, that much of a big ego bruising
Right.
Hulk. And I just love to be myself and whoever I'm there to engage with and share and promote and support.
Yeah.
But you know, I remember telling Steve, I was all right, listen, I gotta go spend money. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta go spend money. I'll be back. You know, and it's tough. You hit some of these booths and, you know, people are so friendly and so appreciative that they're like, no, 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 man, take it. You support me so much, man. And I'm like, no, fuck that. You know, you're here making money. You took a
Yeah.
plane or a bus out here, like, here's some greenbacks, man. Here's some
Hmm.
dead presidents, like here, you know. Like I
Hmm.
was, you know, there were booths that didn't take card, and I was going straight back and forth from that cash machine line, man. Like it was religion, man. I was just like, okay, yep, all right, how you doing, Mr. Cash Machine? Here we go. Come out with the whole stack of dead presidents. Okay, let's go. And I had this one cat from
Hmm.
Japan that was there that I was just like, oh my God, I want that, I want that, I want that, I want that. And guys just like, these are all originals. I was like, I don't care. Here here you go. And I think there's, you know, there's not, and listen, I'm not a rich guy. It's just, you know, I'm happy
Yeah.
to play hard, get the opportunities that I have. And whenever ever possible to go and engage and support artists, I like to buy art from real artists, you know.
Yeah.
That's basically it. I love to support them. And if we can't support them, then you know it gets very concerning upon okay, what's the future of this community? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
If there's nobody
Yeah.
supporting us, then what is there to really engage with moving forward? Right? A bunch of
Absolutely.
like a bunch of, you know, AI
Hmm.
orchestrated bullshit. Nah, man,
Right.
come on. You know,
Yeah.
so whenever possible for you folks that hit those events, seriously, if you could afford it, you know, buy from real artists. And if you can't really have the dead presidents in your pocket, then go up to them and actually just give your thanks, you know, take a picture of
Hmm.
them, you know, post it up on your social, like, you know, show that appreciation and support whenever possible. You know, we love it,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that totally. And I love hearing that you're one of us, you know, and you're out there among the people just like us and you're a legit fan and all that. Um Now, obviously, with all of this going on, do you have? And you use the term magical to describe H45, and that's what I keep saying for my wife and I. We were there, it's magical. That's the only word I can, because when you're there in
Yeah.
that community, it's so awesome. Um, Now, you've teased a couple possible upcoming things. Do you have current or upcoming projects that you can plug or talk about?
Oof, man. Well, how about this? Away from the book, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, even today, I'm getting, engaged with Printed in Blood, and like, hey, do you mind? We need a little bit more here, a few more things. We need to send it out to a few people. I'm like, hey, no problem. Here we go.
Sure,
We have a few things that we're forecasting for the future, right? That's very, very exciting. Can't put any properties or mention any titles.
Yeah.
But obviously, if you're a fan of Printed in Blood,
Yeah.
and that road that they're on, then whatever comes battling down the horizon, trust me, we're gonna have some fun with those guys further down the line. From the home entertainment kind of physical media standpoint, I finished off about 4 different titles for Shout Factory recently. Some of them are steel books, some of them are kind of box sets, full wrapped around collector edition, entities. One of them's a Carpenter film. Can't tell you anything else than that. All right. Okay. What else? Dabbling with Lionsgate all the time, whenever possible. I love those guys.
Yep.
What else? Yeah, I've got one major project right now that I've been waiting for to play with a particular agency out in LA that plays with a particular studio. And they called up and they're like, hey, we want you to do this, and it's part of a series. And I'm just like, okay, let's go to it. So there's a lot going on right now, and I'm very thankful, very grateful for it. And being an artist, you hope and pray to reach certain levels of like these door knocking opportunities, right? Because it's had me shift over a lot of my focus. Like, I just posted something today on my story where I was like, hey, somebody mentioned, hey, are we going to get a particular poster to celebrate a particular popular day in the May calendar? And I was like, maybe not this year, because I'm making a focus to switch to be more on physical media, right? Physical media being everything, I mean, this day and age is totally anchored to like home entertainment and DVDs and steelbooks. Right. But for me, it's also books, right? So definitely, I'm making a big mental shift that, hey, if there's an opportunity where a studio is like, hey, we want you to do this poster for us, I'm not going to turn it away. It's just that right now, I'm really wanting to be an active participant and supporter upon keeping physical media alive. We're so engaged within this digital world that it's so cool. It's great to have, it streaming on your house, on your TV at home or on your phone while you're on the bus or subway. But then you hear stories of like community theaters that have been there for 20, 40 years closing down because they can't afford rent because nobody's going there anymore. You know what I mean? So
it's true, yeah.
I don't want to be associated with that dark endeavor that's coming to be, and when it comes to physical media, I used to be a big time collector. Now that I've been living in Colombia for 7 years, it's not that easy because it's not a cult thing down here. It's not it's plus it's very expensive. We're dealing with a whole different, economic, balance here. But that's things are coming down the pipeline. If you're a fan of physical media and you're a collector or just somebody that appreciates movies and films on that format, I'm really having a fun time engaging and supporting that, collaborating with the studios. So yeah, and books too, like I said.
Very cool.
I wish I could tell you guys so much like in detail, but I can't.
I understand. But it sounds like you're gonna no shortage of projects. You're gonna be busy for a while, it sounds like, and well, probably some stuff that we might want to have you back on and talk about at some point too.
Sure, I hope so too, man. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, everything's about quality of life and seeking what makes you happy and what's going to put bread on the table and pay and keep the lights on. So I'm not turning work away, but at the same time, the start of this year has been rough with the global inflation and not everybody having the same budget as they did last year. So it's really tough. I find myself, not being overly aggressive, but being overly supportive of just my peer group and folks that they'll say, hey man, take a look at this artist, man. Wouldn't they be so cool to be on this project with this studio? And I'm like, oh snap, yeah, right away, boom, let's support them.
Yeah.
That's who I am. That's how I've always been, and not to say that, oh man, he's such a nice guy, that Mexifunk, that Orlando. No, I know how to be a nice guy, but I'm also a kid from the Bronx, from New York City. So like, you don't test me, man. Don't test me. Seriously. But I think that's part of a very healthy ingredient in today's standards of just supporting whatever is out there that makes you happy, and that reciprocating action is what keeps things afloat and keeps people in decision-making seats go, oh, okay, cool, we definitely should put out this for this audience, or this anniversary celebration for this property that has solely cemented itself in this community. It's wild, man. It's wild to think of communities having that type of influence and power. And instead of vice versa, a lot of people go, well, it's the studios that make that call. No, it's actually the communities that show those seats up high on Hollywood that, hey, this is what we want.
Yeah.
And we're global. We're just not like in some rural town in Nashville. You know what I mean? It's like, so, even with this book, there's talks about going and having it fit for certain languages. I don't think that's too revealing. I hope I don't get the phone call. They're like, hey, give me that secret. But no, I think that's something to really be like, holy crap, I find it really, really just I'm in awe when you really put that into context and frame of mind. Seriously. It's a healthy place to be.
Awesome. I love hearing all that. And before we go, I'm going to wrap it back around to Halloween, the holiday, one more time, because we do always ask everybody.
Oh, snap.
We always ask your favorite Halloween costume and your favorite Halloween candy.
Oh, man, my favorite Halloween costume. Oh, damn. Let me pick a really absurdly, not so many people have even considered upon being it, right? And we're talking about Halloween, not just about the property Halloween, like, oh, you got to pick a costume from the franchise or the property. No, you know what? I think one year we threw this big bash and everybody was coming dressed up. I mean, it was just phenomenal. Big acid trip visually. I was like, what the hell? Who's here?
Yeah.
And I remember getting some of that crazy quick dry Play-Doh, foamy putty. And I love making my own masks. I wish I had oodles and oodles of time to do it now, but now it's so sophisticated with big forms and latex and all these dyes, and I applaud those guys, because I'm just like the sucker that's like, oh my God, it's only $500. And my wife was like, for $500 for a mask? Are you kidding me, man? I'm like, all right, I've got to work. I got to play harder for that. You know what I mean? But I ended up going one year as the Satanic Mechanic, which was never visualized within the Rocky Horror, film.
Yeah.
But I made my mask. It was a half mask, horns. I got a jumper, mechanic jumper, right? I put the stencil on the back, the Satanic Mechanic, and it was wild. People just like, so who are you? And then when I would tell them, they would just flip out. They're like, oh my God. Great. I had platforms on. I was like, yeah, I was all
That's
boogied
awesome.
out. I was all boogied out. So yeah, you know, Satanic Mechanic,
That's a good one.
you know. Uh, what was
That's
the other
great.
question? Favorite candy?
Oh yeah,
Was
favorite
that
candy or treat?
favorite candy or treat? Holy crap. I don't know, man. You know, anything that doesn't have razor blades in them.
Yeah. Right. That's the
You know,
only
I can't.
requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only requirement. You know, I like caramel apples. Seriously, I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
them. They're
Yeah.
just messy as freaking
Yeah.
all hell, man. You know, um, yeah. I mean, those are great if you don't have any
Mhm.
face paint on,
That's
right?
right.
So I'm always going to them if they're at any party, Halloween party.
That's true.
I'm the guy who's like going back and checking to see if there's any left after the whole energy has died down and like, you know, you could take the mask off or you could feel cool that your makeup's half, you know, half gone. You're like, okay, I'll bite into this now, you know. But yeah, cool. It's cool stuff. Very cool stuff. I'm so glad that, you know, because here in Colombia, you know,
Yeah.
we don't, you know, outside of the United States, there's only a handful of cultures that embrace and celebrate this October 31st,
Yeah.
Halloween Day, right? They have different names, different, you know, go-bys, labels for it.
Hmm.
And, you know, especially in South America, we have, you know, the November triple days after Day of the Dead in Mexico, Dia de los Muertos,
Yes.
right? And I love those days too. But I gotta tell you, I love the 31st and leading up to the eve of it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm always surprised that, you know, on the 31st, there's always of us being hell bent for just expression, evil expression, whatever you could do.
Yeah.
And then we have wars with neighborhoods with the whole eggs, shaving cream, baby powdered socks, maces. You know, we go to town. I mean, this was like an all-out, like, you know, hell bent for Halloween type of venue of just like, let's get freaking medieval.
Yeah.
And then you find out that folks over in Jersey are like, oh no, that's Hell's Night. We do that the night before the 31st. And I'm like, what? We do it on the 31st, you know? So you tend to argue about like, you know, what's the right ritual and culture to ensue upon. But then you jump out of the States
Hmm.
and then you find out that in Colombia, you know, like here in Colombia, they really don't celebrate it much, but it's catching. It's
Ah.
catching
Hmm.
and catching and catching, not just because of, oh man, you know, there's a cool thing of trick or treating and you get some free stuff. No, it's catching on because of the film property and the genre
Yeah.
and the mysticism and then the all out celebration of it, you know, and the joy that ensues. So it's really cool to see how much is being embraced on so many
Yeah.
different levels. You know what I mean? And just being a part of that is just makes my brain explode, man.
It really is, and everything you just said. I mean, we've talked to people. I've interviewed people that grew up in other countries and other cultures, and very often they'll say just that yeah, they didn't know much about American Halloween other than what they saw in films like John Carpenter's and other horror
Hmm.
films based around the holiday, and a lot of that was their earliest exposure to like,
Yeah,
oh, to where now, like you said, in modern 2024, a lot of these countries, other countries, are getting more into it, into the American version of Halloween more and more.
yeah, it's
It's amazing.
fantastic. Seriously, you know, I can't wait to see how even more it's gonna
Yeah,
evolve with upcoming generations embracing it and doing what they want to do with it, and it's awesome, man. It's fantastic.
absolutely. You know, we love to see it. Absolutely.
Right on, bro.
Well,
Right
man,
on.
this has been just totally awesome. I love talking to you and getting all of these stories, and you've answered so many of my questions I had about just the creative process of putting these illustrations for this awesome novelization re-release out. I mean, we're just all so happy that it exists again. I mean, you know, shout out to Compass and Printed in Blood and you and just everybody for making this happen, because for us fans and collectors, it's really a must own, I say, and just
Oh man.
just a beautiful book in every respect. So yeah, this has been awesome. I can't thank you enough for hanging out and talking to us today.
Oh no, thank you for the opportunity. I mean, when you sent over the DM, I was like, oh yeah, of course. Dude, just give me a day time frame. I'll check my calendar, sweep anything off to the side if I can, and let's do it. And we have. I just can't wait to see what we end up talking about further down the line.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, we'll definitely do it. The door is open. Like I said, this has been a blast for me, and yeah, we'll definitely talk some more. Whenever any of those other projects are public and we can start talking about them. But
Yeah.
again, this has been great. I know our audience is going to enjoy it, and if they don't already own Halloween Illustrated, I'm sure they're going to be itching to get a hold of a copy now and to see for ourselves what we've been talking about here.
Oh yeah.
But,
Are you going to Monsterpalooza this
it
year?
is beautiful.
Are you
I
going to
don't know if we're
Monsterpalooza?
going to make it up there, but are you going to be there?
I guess so. I mean, we've got this thing out there now, and I would love to meet people and see, just get their feedback. I mean, I'm one for feedback. I love getting that opportunity. So yeah, let's see. I mean,
Meeting the fans.
it's on the table, and if you're there, man, I would love to just have you come over, chill out, and if you wanted to do a spot, gauge.
Oh yeah.
And be like, okay, let's mess and have fun with the folks that are coming by, and just ask them, hey, let's just have fun. How about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we'll do it definitely. If not there at one of these events upcoming, where
Hell yeah, man.
yeah, we'll absolutely
Keep me posted.
Connect in person for sure. And
Yeah.
as always, every day's Halloween for us, and we always hate to say goodbye, but instead, I just always end these by saying Happy Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween to you too. Oh, why can't every day be Halloween? Well, it is, right?
It is. That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
For us, anyway.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Yo, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Seriously. And again, for all of you supporting the Printed in Blood Halloween renovelization, Halloween Illustrated. I'm losing my voice over here. Jesus. Thank you. I can't thank you guys enough. And if you don't know about it, then go tap somebody on the shoulder and peek into their book. Hopefully you'll like it. All right. Thank you so much.